So welcome everyone again to today's webinar on SAGE Campus. I wanted to start with some really quick introductions. So again, I'm Zara Hills. I'm the Business Development Manager for SAGE Campus, covering North America, Latin America, South America. Joining me today is Dr. Bala Sundaram. We're really excited to have him join us today. Bala is the Vice Provost for Research and Strategic Initiatives and Dean of Graduate Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. So in terms of what we'll be covering today, this is what the agenda looks like. So I'll be giving you a really good overview of, what SAGE Campus is, how it works, and, how we support universities looking to improve student outcomes, research outcomes, and employability. We'll be taking a closer look at the new courses that are coming in, next week. We'll then hear from Dr. Bala Sundaram about his experience using SAGE Campus at his university, UMass Boston. I'll then do a very quick demo of our platform and one of the courses for everyone, and then we'll have questions at the end. So let's look at what SAGE Campus offers today. So SAGE Campus supports the teaching and learning of really critical skills and research methods through over 250 hours of structured online learning. Our flexible learning pathways cover really tricky skills and research methods that users need to engage with and can be applied across the lifespan of academic study and practice, supporting learners of all stages, from freshman year undergraduates through to early career researchers and beyond. Our courses are self-paced and instructor-led, comprising an engaging mix of high-quality content that you'd expect from SAGE, including video, interactives, and formative assessments. So as I mentioned, one of the key purposes of SAGE Campus is to help institutions in improving learning outcomes, research outcomes, and employability. So our user-friendly platform makes it really simple for faculty to assign courses to their students when teaching using SAGE Campus, or for students and researchers to learn autonomously, building practical skills for study, research, and the workplace. So here you can see our content pathway and the really high level topics and skills that we cover. So SAGE Campus covers the lifespan of academic study and practice, from undergraduates looking to critically assess information through to researchers looking to report their data and even publish in a journal. So I apologize that this might be a little bit small on your screen, but here you can see all of our 31 courses on that content pathway, mapped against the various stages of academic study and practice they support, from undergraduate through to postgrad and early career research. Our courses help students and researchers of all levels master the skills they need to succeed on their courses or to complete their research. The campus suite has 31 courses, or over 250 hours of online learning available now, covering in sort of 5 key areas. So critical thinking and information literacy, which is more at undergraduate level, the data literacy and statistics, more advanced sort of data science and computational methods, research skills, and finally getting published in a journal. And we sort of chose these topics because these were the ones that universities told us were really important to them, that students struggle with, or that faculty find really difficult to teach, or perhaps don't have time to teach, but still need students to be really good and need that support. So just to pull out a few examples here, critical thinking course teaches digital and information literacy. It gives students practical techniques for critical engagement with sources, evidence, arguments, and reasoning. So it's a really fundamental skill for students to sort of master early on, and prepares them for sort of that transition to higher education. Data analytics skills and computational methods are increasingly important for lots of disciplines at both undergraduate and postgrad level. But students often embark on their programs without those fundamental data skills in place that they need to handle data. So our data science courses, such as data visualization, introductions to R and to Python, for example, can help plug that skills gap and save faculty really valuable class time. And I'm sure hopefully that you'll be able to identify programs at your institutions where these topics and skills are being taught or are required. So our content pathway can map really nicely to those curricular needs as well. So before we take a closer look at the 4 new courses that are launching next week, I wanted to speak a little bit about our learning style. So we have a unique pedagogy and instructional design that really sets Sage Campus apart. It supports a wide range of teaching and learning approaches, such as asynchronous learning, blended learning, or the flipped classroom. So our courses are fully self-paced to fit around busy schedules, but structured to provide a scaffolded learning experience. At the heart of each course is an expert instructor who's helped design the course. They're experts in their field and use lots of real life and practical examples that are directly relevant and applicable to research, but especially to social science research. Our courses use an engaging mix of materials such as screencasts, video, text, interactives, and practical activities that really keep learners engaged. We use knowledge tracks and formative assessments throughout as well. So there's a real emphasis on practice here to reinforce the learning, mastery of the topic, and to really embed those practical skills. Learners also receive a certificate of completion at the end of the course. Again, this helps to kind of motivate learners and improve the sort of completion rates. And just to reiterate as well that this is trusted Sage quality. So our courses are rigorously tested and reviewed for excellence in the same way you'd expect our other sort of library resources. So let's take a closer look at the courses that are launching next week. So next week we have 4 new courses on sort of introductory research skills and new qualitative methods topics. So these new courses are critical reading and writing, conduct a literature review, do your interviews, and analyze qualitative data. So these courses will give students the skills needed to complete their research projects and dissertations, and particularly in the social sciences. And then coming in May, we have 3 new courses, which are Introduction to Statistics, Introduction to Data Management. So we're building out that core kind of statistics curriculum that we offer through Sage Campus. And then Introduction to AI and Machine Learning, which is really exciting. So we're really looking at the future of computational methods and the latest innovations in sort of data science and bringing that into our offering. So critical reading and writing teaches reading strategies to evaluate and question both written and visual texts. The course builds confidence in structuring a writing piece, spelling out arguments, and integrating evidence into that argument. Next, we have conduct a literature review. So how to conduct a literature review is a topic that many librarians sort of asked us to create a course in. It's something that libraries spend a lot of time sort of providing instruction in and creating resources on literature reviews. So this course can really help deliver efficiencies for the library, freeing up your time to offer more specialized support for your patrons. And this course guides learners through the entire process of preparing a literature review, from selecting the right readings to analyzing existing literature and structuring and writing a quality literature review. But most importantly, it develops the skills in using evidence to create an engaging and critical argument. Do your interviews. So we have a lot of quantitative methods courses. I wanted to bring in some more qualitative methods, starting with interviews. So this course guides learners through the planning and development of research interviews. It's really practical and hands-on to help researchers capture better quality, more in-depth research data. There's also an entire module on the ethics of doing interviews, which is obviously very important for this type of method. Analyze qualitative data, develop skills needed to understand and evaluate qualitative data, and covers every stage of analysis, from coding and finding bigger themes and how to document your analysis. It's a really engaging course as well. So it's packed full of video, transcripts, and audio clips that learners can use to practice and transcribe practice transcribing and coding of their data. So each of these courses are standalone and have their own learning outcomes, but we also have some suggested learner pathways that show how our courses connect and how they can help learners build skills on skills. So learners can either take an individual course to upskill in a specific topic, or they can take a string of courses to help them meet a larger learning objective or goal. So I wanted to share just a couple of examples of the many learning pathways that we offer. And these sort of incorporate the new courses that are launching next week. So the first is learn skills to write a winning dissertation. And so these are the 4 courses that we would suggest for that learning goal. And learn how to conduct research online as well, which is something we know, many people are doing more of these days. So I'll be handing over to Dr. Sundaram in just a moment, but before I do that, I wanted to talk about a few other ways that we know institutions are using SAGE Campus, which include assigning our courses as required or preparatory material at the start of term to ensure all students have the same level of skills needed for their courses right at the start. Obviously, SAGE Campus can help supplement teaching and support hybrid, asynchronous, and flipped classroom models. It can help support the development of your research faculty, and especially your sort of your PhD or early career researchers. Through SAGE Campus, these learners can upskill in the latest research methods and tools and learn how to navigate the publishing process for the first time, which is something that we know, early career researchers find a little overwhelming. And expand face-to-face training. So, it can help libraries sort of meet the demand of your oversubscribed workshops so that everyone can get the support they need exactly when they need it. So the moment I'm sure you've all been waiting for, we're going to hear from Dr. Bala Sundaram, who's kindly agreed to join us today. Bala is the Vice Provost for Research and Strategic Initiatives and Dean of Graduate Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. So we've asked him to join us today because UMass Boston were one of the earliest adopters of SAGE Campus and originally subscribed at the start of the pandemic to support the move to hybrid learning. So Bala's here to tell us, how they've been using SAGE Campus and what their experience has been like so far. So Bala, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, would you mind, would you start by sort of telling us a little bit more about your role at UMass Boston?
Sure, absolutely. So as my title suggests, I wear 2 hats. First, I am the Chief Research Officer on our campus. So I oversee all the research activities and all disciplines on our campus. And the second is I'm also the Dean of Graduate Studies. And that was really the context in which we first considered the SAGE Campus Suite. So,
wonderful, thank you. And when you were sort of first considering the SAGE Campus Suite, at the sort of start of the pandemic, what were the sort of particular challenges or problems that you were looking to kind of solve at the time?
Sure. So I think the initial consideration started maybe about a year earlier than the start of the pandemic. And across our programs, each program has a graduate program director. And there was a discussion among the graduate program directors that every program really had its own take on quantitative and qualitative research methods. And so there was a surfeit of all these classes. And one of the things we were considering was whether there was a way to sift through basic material and advanced materials and put all the basic materials into a smaller subset of classes that everybody could take commonly, and then go off and explore specializations, if you like, or specialized applications within their own silos. So that was the initial impetus, but then it turned out to be more difficult than imagined. And it was at that point that we were considering different ways of using self-paced learning. We did look at other options as well. But one of the things we recognized also is the primary issues was actually across the humanities and social sciences, where we really needed something. And that's why we decided that SAGE was worth looking at, because SAGE has brand recognition in this community, and it was something that both the faculty and the community trusted in terms of content. So that's how it started. And then, as it turned out, the adoption was fortuitous with the pandemic, because we moved to hybrid learning, and it turned out to be very useful for us in that context. So.
Great. So something that you said earlier was kind of interesting. So you were trying to kind of create a more curriculum based around the sort of foundational skills, and so that other programs could become more specialized. So what were the kind of challenges in trying to do that yourself, I guess?
So for our graduate students, we have a statistics lab, which is run by a PhD statistician. And she puts together a whole range of courses, typically runs anywhere between 15 to 20 workshops a semester. And these span the spectrum of requests rather than specific skills. And the problem with that is that we have a spectrum of abilities of the students who try and participate in these. And so quite often she was finding herself having to go back and work or reinforce some of the introductory skills before she could move to the more advanced material. And so that was the biggest challenge. So this resource was quite often not meeting the needs of the students on one end, or the researchers at the other end, because the researchers wanted sometimes the more advanced skills for the students in their groups, whereas the students themselves didn't necessarily have the background to move quickly to those advanced skills. So that was the challenge. And that was also part of the reason why we looked at what each program was doing in terms of their own course structure for qualitative and quantitative methods. So that's where we started looking at this.
Oh, okay, so students in the statistics lab sort of were at different levels, and so those resources sort of were not at the right level. So there was a challenge in sort of leveling up those students and making sure everyone had the same.
Right. And some of the stuff that was offered was being offered by departments like the mathematics department, the applied mathematics, or the computer science department. And quite often some of those were seen as too advanced.
And have
and
a sort
so
of
what
different
we were trying to do is have something which would act like an equalizer, bring everybody up to a certain level that then would be used as a platform to stack advanced skills on.
So so sort of covering those foundational skills so that students can then use that as a platform to build more specialized skills that are more discipline specific. Have I understood that? Yeah, great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the PhD statistician, one of the things that she does do is work with students at all levels, because our undergraduate students, many of them write undergraduate theses and they do research work for that, and they need the same skills at a different level than the PhD students or the postdoctoral researchers or the faculty themselves who are putting together program design, for example, for grant applications and other things. And the PhD statistician essentially has to span the spectrum of requests. And that was the biggest challenge.
So I guess what are the sort of practical ways that you've been using SAGE Campus at your institution? And a follow-up to that, how has it sort of helped?
So I'll give you an example. So originally the idea was to make the modules available. So initially the initial subscription was for our graduate population. And now we've taken on a much more extensive site license to make it available to everybody. But the initial app usage was during the pandemic, because we found ourselves needing hybrid classes for a subset of our graduate students. And so over the fall and the spring semester, we put together, I think one was called Research Methods using R, and the other one was Data Analysis with Python. And each of these courses was built around 2 or 3 of the SAGE modules. But then they were also supplemented with supervised programming sessions. And then the students were asked to, each one at the beginning of the semester, take an individualized project which related to their own program. and then by the end of the semester, be able to apply what they'd learned over the course of the semester to that specific project. So I think the first semester we had about 15 students. In the second semester we had 30. The next iteration of that, there was again about 30 students. So that was a sort of the structured environment in which we've tried it out. And it was, for the most part, was really successful, because every single student in each of the semesters successfully completed and was certified in the modules. And each one successfully completed a project associated with that. So
Wonderful.
that was, that was our measure of success, a metric for success, and that worked out very well. Now with the fall semester, everybody coming back to campus, and with this broader availability, we're seeing faculty incorporating these modules more into their existing classes. So so then it becomes, the good thing about it is, because it's self-paced, it can be almost a made-to-order component of any class. If a student has a particular interest or inclination, this is one of the things you can direct them to. And then you can, as a faculty member, you can then help integrate it into whatever's going on in the regular classroom setting. So I'm hoping that we'll see more creative uses of this product. So
yeah, wonderful. So it's sort of helping with that sort of self-directed learning, where you're pointing students to the resource, and then also sort of incorporating it into classroom teaching, whether that's hybrid, flipped, etc.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I said, we have this statistics lab, and there's that lab is always staffed by at least 2 people who help wander around and help students, or whoever's there, actually faculty are also there, with any problems. So one of the other things we're envisaging is students can actually go there and do their self-paced learning in that lab. So that way they actually have an immediate resource that they can turn to if they get stuck at some point. So that's something which we haven't yet realized, but we should as we come back to normal operations. So
yeah, so that you've been doing lots of things, but then still have lots of different ways of using Sage Campus on the cards for the future.
right.
Yeah. Something that you said earlier was really interesting about how the way that you sort of measured success. So students were able to successfully complete their projects and things. And I was just wondering, maybe it's a little too early to tell, but have you been able to compare those sort of student outcomes against previous years from before you were using Sage Campus?
That's a good point. We haven't, because, and part of the reason is because the bulk of our realization so far of the ideas has been during the pandemic, and it was a very small subset of students that needed this intervention. So as we come back, then I think one of the things our resident statistician plans to do is actually run her courses in 2 modes. One is the regular workshop mode, which is completely face-to-face. And the other one is this hybrid modality, where you have a little bit of overlap between the hybrid and the face-to-face one. For example, the supervised programming sessions may be the common feature of the 2. So that will allow for a direct comparison. But I suspect it'll probably be the upcoming fall semester before we get to try that out.
Okay, well, I'd love to have another conversation with you after that. That would be really interesting, I think. Yeah. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions that I had for you. Yeah, so how have faculty responded and students sort of responded to Sage Campus?
We've got the student response because the faculty adoption is just beginning. So probably at the end of this semester, we can solicit some feedback. But from the student standpoint, most of the comments were very positive. The usual things in all of these self-paced structures, you have some people who feel it's too slow and some people who feel it's too fast. And so that, I think, is par for the course in terms of a critique. But by and large, the responses were very positive. And for many of our students who took it, for especially the one with the R, the statistics class, it was the first one for the students.
Mm-hmm.
So they really came out of that class with clearly thinking that it was relevant to their work, and it would help them improve, you know, their quantitative skills.
Wonderful. Do you have any sort of advice for anyone who's joined us today who might be sort of struggling with the same things or looking to try out some of the things that you've been doing? Do you have any advice or sort of best practices and tips?
I mean, the only thing we for us, because of the pandemic, it happened by accident, but we really had a small test group that we could try things out and we could try different strategies. And now that we have some lessons that we've learned from this, we can then think about a larger scale institutional implementation. And I think that may be a good way to go. You know, start off with a test bed of some sort that you can assess and then scale it up.
Great, thank you. I think I said that we would do questions at the end, but actually, let's do them now. Like if anyone has questions for Bala now, let's take those. So please pop your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll answer those now. And then we can do another Q&A for any other general questions at the end. But yeah, let's take questions now. Marcella, would you mind reading out some of the questions, please?
Hi, Sarah. Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any implementation strategies that you warn others against using? And are there things you've tried that didn't work or are not impactful?
I would be reluctant to address that, only because we've had such a limited implementation. You know, if you ask me this question 2 years from now, that would probably give you a better answer to it. I think the thing that I think worked was, at least during the time of the pandemic, the critical piece to that was the fact that there was the face-to-face component to it. So I would definitely suggest putting in a hybrid component, because what that allows is it doesn't, at least in my experience with strictly online or self-paced, sometimes you hit a bottleneck and then you stop and you don't move on, and that quite often it affects completion. And this was seen in MOOCs and other large examples in the past. And I think in something like this, having that face-to-face release or relief, if you like, allows you to get over these bottlenecks and finish the thing. And that's the sort of the positive thing. And if anything, that was also a cautionary note that we learned from my experience so far, if that's helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone in the audience?
Not at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Bala, so much. That was a really interesting sort of insight into, you know, how you're using SAGE Campus at your institution, some of the problems and challenges it's helped you address. It sounds like it kind of met a very immediate need in the sort of move to hybrid learning because of the pandemic, but also helping you sort of work towards sort of larger goals of providing those foundational skills so that you can specialize your programs and sort of bring up mixed ability students. So yeah, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about how SAGE Campus works in terms of adopting it at your institution. So as you would expect from any of SAGE's sort of digital library resources, SAGE Campus provides unlimited access for all faculty, researchers, students, and staff via the SAGE Campus platform. Sage Campus can be made discoverable within your LMS and discovery layer and is authenticated via your preferred method. So users can access the resource both on campus and remotely. We offer both subscription and purchase options. And in addition to Counter 5 reports, librarians can also access the dashboard of learning and engagement metrics that offer a more sort of enriched view of how Sage Campus is being used across your institution. A really critical component of Sage Campus are the different sort of user roles or sets of permissions that we have introduced to support different student, faculty, and librarian use cases. So as a learner, you can simply create your own account and self-enroll on as many courses as you like. Learners have a sort of personalized dashboard where they can view all the courses that they've enrolled on and can track their own learning progress. Faculty then have an extra set of permissions where they can assign courses to their students and student cohorts, and then track their progress for improved sort of learning outcomes. And finally, we have the institutional admin role for librarians. So you can manage accounts, view learning and engagement metrics, such as course enrollment numbers, progress and completion rates. So now I'm going to just demo the platform for you. I'll show you one of our courses so you get a better feel for the sort of pedagogy and instructional design of our courses. So let me just switch over which screen I'm sharing. Okay. Hopefully, so I've got some things in the way. So hopefully you can all now see the Sage Campus platform. This is what the learner sort of view looks like. So I have a personalized dashboard of all of the courses that I'm enrolled on and tracking my progress here. This little tag is telling me that this has been assigned to me by my professor. So let's say that I'm a dissertation student and I'm really struggling to come up with a really good research question for my project. My professor doesn't really have time to handhold me through the process of, creating a really good research question. So, but he has pointed me to Sage Campus. So I'm going to find a course that will help me write a good research question. So let's view the full course catalog. I'm going to search a question. And here I have research question course. So I'm enrolled on the course. The sort of course page has a course overview telling me the learning outcomes, so the practical skills that I will gain from taking the course. We have information on the course author. In this case, it's Zina O'Leary, who's a recognized leader in research methodologies. If anyone subscribes to Sage Video, you might recognize her face because she's contributed a lot of Sage Video content for us as well. There will be pre and post assessment quizzes, which are a series of questions that establish my level of skill and confidence on this topic. And then we have all the modules. So I'm going to show you module 3. How do I articulate my research question? So the module will have a sort of introduction and the things that I will learn from this particular module. And then below that, we have all of the different topics. So I just want to highlight some of the pedagogy that we use within our courses, because this is, again, what really sets us apart. So key terms, so really important terms that students will need to know are defined here. It's an engaging, packed with colors and engaging visuals to keep learners engaged. We like to use really quick questions at the start of each topic to get learners really engaged in the content and to start thinking about it really, really quickly. So this is just a quick question, right? To answer that, I got it wrong, so I've got to try again and can get feedback on my response. So if I don't get it right, I'm not locked out of the course. I get feedback on my response and then can continue with my learning. Pause to consider. So these are, as you can see, we've got sort of interactive content. So we break up that text and make it more engaging. These will be reflective questions. that get students thinking about the content of the course in relation to their own situations or projects. So here it's asking me, do I have a preliminary idea for my question, etc. Another piece of pedagogy we use is Zena Says. So these will be sort of expert advice from the course author, given in a really friendly and informal way that draw upon their experience of writing a research question. Again, the courses are packed full of video content to make it really engaging and illustrate important points. Get it, got it, flip cards. So these will be based on the really frequently asked questions that students raise in a classroom setting. So really important things that they will need to know that we draw into the course content here. Yeah, so that's given you a really, really quick sort of look at our courses. I'll probably end there and go back to the presentation. Okay, so I think that was everything that I wanted to share with everyone today. We've got a little bit more time for a couple more questions. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the Q&A box now.
Hi, Sarah. I had a couple of questions that were already answered by the both of you. There's one here for you about campus integration with the VLE, if there are any plans for that to happen in the future.
That's a really good question. So it is one of our top priorities for the sort of product roadmap. So the development that we want to do on the platform. So it is in the works. I think we're aiming to sort of start work on it in the summer. So hopefully we can be offering that to subscribers in the near future. Yeah, because it's something that, librarians have asked for and faculty have asked for, quite a lot. So yes.
Thank you.
And then you said there was another one?
Yes, so someone is asking about new courses, because you mentioned there are new courses coming in May, and in the future, if you get more courses, is there a price increment when you on subscription? When you get new courses, do you pay a part, or will it be automatically included?
Oh,
Since
that's a good.
You subscribe, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So for subscribers, any new courses that we release, subscribers would gain instant access to them for no extra cost. It's just rolled into the price they're already paying.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see any new questions, and if you'd like to wait a minute or so.
That's all right. So I guess that's the end of today's webinar. Thank you all so much for your time. If anyone is interested in a trial for their institution, we offer two options. So for any faculty who might be on the call today, we have something called a demo hub where you can register to view one sample module from each of our courses just to sort of try out and get a feel for our pedagogy and instructional design. And then for libraries, we offer an institution-wide trial. And I will send the slides and the links so that you know where you can request that. But for anyone who does have any questions, would like a proper demo or pricing or have any queries at all, I'm sharing my contact information here. So please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Thank you. There is one question for Fatima, but I believe Bala has answered already about who pays for the subscription at UMass, the library or research office.
Yeah, well, it actually is my office that pays, and we actually view it as graduate student success support. So we do fold that into that category, if you like. And also it's split funded between us and the IT group, but it's hosted by the library. So that's where the library comes in.
because the library is sort of there to help, set up the access and make the courses sort of discoverable to the community of UMass Boston. So yeah.
Yeah, no more questions.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining today. It was really lovely to tell you all about SAGE Campus, and I really appreciate you joining us and giving us your time. And a big thank you to Bala again. We really appreciate hearing from you. So yeah, thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.